This question is clearly trying to get us to do algebra, and maybe algebra is new for you if you're in 8th or 9th grade, so maybe this isn't quite as robotic as a process as you would like it to be, but eventually when you take the SAT, you want to be able to look at this and know exactly what to do. I will show you how we can solve this with a calculator, but I really think it's important to know how to solve this kind of equation. So what we want to do is get our P alone. And the way I think of it is I follow GERMDAS, which is my version of PEMDAS. Now, whenever we have any arithmetic, we need to follow the order of operations, which goes from left to right. G stands for groupings, then exponents and radicals, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. There's an order that we have to simplify things. But in this case, there's nothing to simplify, right? 5p plus 180, we can't combine those numbers. We can't get 185p. It doesn't work that way because those are different kinds of terms. The p is different, and so it can't mix easily. So that means we're going to need to do algebra. There's nothing to simplify. And the good thing about GERMDAS is basically what we end up doing with algebra is the same order of operations that we use for arithmetic, except now it's in reverse. Every time we want to move something across an equals, we want to do it backwards. So let me show you what I mean by that, okay? Remember, arithmetic, we're going left to right. Algebra, we're going right to left. So that means we're going to start with any addition or subtraction. That is step number 1, which means if we want to get P alone, we want to look at the P on that left side and we want to say, okay, how are things attached to it? Are any of them attached through addition and subtraction? And sure enough, that's how this 180 is there, right? It's a plus 180. So we want to wipe that out. And with addition and subtraction, the magic number we want is a 0, right? So we have an addition, we have a plus 180. How do we make that into a 0? We subtract 180. We're going to cancel it out by subtracting the same amount. But remember, the most important rule of algebra is anytime you do something to one side of an equation, you've got to do the same thing to the other side of the equation. So we're going to subtract 180 there, and that means on the left side, it's going to cancel out, leaving us just with 5p. And on the right side, we can grab our calculators, but 250 minus 180 is 70. Ooh, let's use the same color there, 70. And so now we've done the first step of GERMDAS. We've moved from the addition and subtraction. There's no more addition or subtraction to do. We have the 5p, something still attached to that p, but it's not attached through addition and subtraction. The 5 is multiplied by the p. It's 5 times p. So that brings us to our next step of GERMDAS, which is multiplication and division. So if we have multiplication, we want to do its opposite to get rid of it. So if we have 5p, we're going to divide by 5 to cancel out the multiplication by 5. So this is why GERMDAS is so great. Everything pairs up. So we remember how to cancel things out. There's a lot of opposites in algebra. So if we divide 5p or we divide 5 on both sides, on the left side, we want to do it on the right side. So it's going to get rid of the 5s, and that's going to leave us with p equals 14. And just make sure, did they ask for p? Yes, they did. So we are done. That is the answer. Now, we could have also guessed and checked here, right? We could have taken all of these values of p and plugged them into the equation and said, okay, which one gives me an equation that makes sense, right? So if we put 65 in for p in that equation, we would get 65 times, or sorry, we would get, let's do it this way. We'll do 5 times 65 plus 180 equals 250, right? Now, 5 times 65, I don't know that, let's use the calculator there. So 5 times 65, that's 325 plus 180. Well, that's way bigger than 250. That's 505, right? So these two numbers are supposed to be the same. They're not. That's how we know that that's not a valid value of p, right? It doesn't make an equation that makes sense. It gives us a different number than we want. So guess and check is always available to us when we're just kind of solving for a variable and they give us those 4 options. But even if we didn't have answer choices here, we could use the calculator. What basically happens with Desmos is if we put in an equation with just one variable, it's going to solve that equation for us. So we're going to need to change the p to an x, I believe. Actually, let me see. We might be lucky here. Let's change that to, let's put it as a p, 5p plus 180. 180 equals 250. And let's see. Nope, it doesn't work. So that's okay. That's what I was expecting. I was just going to show you guys. But yep, if we change that p to an x, look, now we've got it. Now no error. And look, we get a vertical red line right where we would expect. where x is 14, right? So it's doing that for us. It's producing a vertical line. So in this case, because some of these numbers are really big, right? 65, 86, 250. If it was one of those other answers, we'd have to scroll around and find it. But if we put it in right, just as it was in the question, we can see that vertical line, and all it's doing is telling you the answer. It's telling you P, or in this case x, is equal to 14, and now we would be confident in our answer, choice A. So there's lots of ways to do this, but like I said at the beginning, the best way to solve this for your future math knowledge is to be able to do the algebra, because you will have more complicated algebra, not just in school, but on the SAT when you take it in the future. And this is the most basic version of algebra that we all really need to know. So don't dismiss it. Keep studying in school. If it's not yet robotic, eventually it will be. And that's the goal, is that you should be able to solve equations like this in your sleep, because this is kind of like the most basic linear equation we're going to see.